Hey, it's Frank here with 4D Honeybee, and it is a miserable day in June. It's not a good beekeeping day. It's early middle June, let's say, and it's cold, it's overcast, and it's windy. And it's not a day that you want to get in a beehive. So I'm going to take this opportunity to render some comb. Render some wax. I've got 3 years worth of beeswax in this container that I've been waiting to render. And now I'm all set up. I'm going to do it today because I also have to clean up a whole bunch of frames. And there's more than that. There, I don't know, there's maybe 2, 4, 6, 8 frames there. But in the shed over there, there's probably another 50 frames that I'm going to clean off and render that wax and start making some use of the wax. So it's a rendering wax day at 4D Honeybee. First step is to get some water in a pot like this. I'm only going to do about 3-4 inches of water. That's a pretty big pot, and I don't think you need any much more. You just need enough to make sure that you're not actually burning your wax. Next step, we'll just get the fire going here. Now this is probably a less than ideal setup for a alright, we got fire. For a wax rendering deal. I'm just using, as you can see, I'm just using my barbecue here. If you've got one of those outdoor burners that you attach to a propane tank, that would be ideal. Might make a bit of a mess here, but you know what? Can't make stuff without making a mess. So I got this pot for 40 bucks on Kijiji. And they say that, you know, the pot that you use for rendering, you might as well plan to throw in the garbage, so, or at least not be able to use for anything else. So one concern here is that I hope it's not that windy that it's going to blow out the fire. But I don't know, it seems pretty well protected there. So if I have to build some kind of protection, I will. But my plan here is to get a boil going and then start introducing wax to melt it. So here's what we're working with, and I've kind of dreaded this reveal for many years. It's probably, boom, 3 years of wax. And this is everything from light cappings that you can see here, to dark former frames and foundation, to stuff that's in between, right? And I'm going to be cleaning up a lot more frames, as I showed you before, to pour them in here too. The smell of this is not pleasant. We often talk about how nice the smell of beekeeping is. The smell of hives, the smell of honey, the smell of wax. This is nasty. This is the smell of bee death. Because you know there's a lot of cocoons and dead bees and body parts and all sorts of crazy stuff in here. But start rendering it. And then we'll work the water down to a very slight boil. Basically want to get the water as low in temperature as possible to keep the wax melting without overheating it and possibly burning it. While I'm waiting for the water to boil, I'm just going to start cleaning off some frames here. Because you see, this wax is lovely. And that will make some incredibly nice light wax. But we're mixing it up with all the nasty stuff too, so it's probably gonna, I'm planning to do at least 2 filterings for this first rendering. I'll do a coarse filter and then a more fine filter on the second go around. And what I'm planning to do with this is make a few bars out of it. I'm going to do some candles out of it. And I'm just going to also have beeswax around just to be able to re-wax these frames, because the bees are not big on plastic frames, but if you super load them with wax, they build them out really nicely. I'm going to try using this scoop digger to get stuff in there, but I think I'm going to make a mess. Okay, so I decided to finish it off in here, and you can see this burner has much more in the way of BTUs, but For the love of all things good, please do not tell my wife that I did this. I'll find a way for her not to see this video, but please don't tell Jackie that I brought this in here. It's bad enough I got to deal with that barbecue and the deck, and that might be a surprise to her tonight. But anyway, just because it just didn't seem that the outside barbecue had enough BTUs. Now you see how this is at a, what I'd call a roll and boil now? We got to slow that down. So let's get down there and slow that down a little bit so that we're not burning it. Ideally, you're just bringing it to a point where it is just on the verge of boiling. That'll melt that stuff down really nice. It'll end up much more liquid. And again, it would have happened outside, but it would have taken a lot longer. And it wasn't uniform. The top was cooling so much that it was solidifying, and then the bottom was liquid. So it's got to be all one big massive slurry. Okay, so here's the final boil that I've got it settled down to. You can see you're just getting the odd little bubble there. I'm trying to make it as cool as possible, but at a temperature that's still melting the wax, but not burning it. I think the biggest challenge I'm going to have here is debris. Like, there must be, just feeling it with this stick, there must be about 4 inches of solid debris, garbage, that's just going to clog up the filter. So I think the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to plan to be prepared to pour, then dump out the filter, then pour, then dump out the filter, then pour, then dump out the filter. And we'll see how it goes. It's all melted now. You can see the problem I was having outside was that the top was solidifying. That's not happening now. But I'm going to let it boil another few minutes and then take it outside and bring a garbage bag, have the garbage bag beside the pail. This weighs about 50 pounds. So it's not going to be easy to pour. I've got to set it up so that hopefully I can support myself somehow. So I'm going to do that, get ready for that while this just continues its last little boil here. I didn't end up having, here, maybe I'll show it to you here. I'll just cut the video for a sec. So I ended up cleaning up about 35 frames additional to what I already had in the box. Ooh, look at that mess. I have to clean that up somehow. And I still have, bees are starting to find this, that's why I put the lid on. I still have that much left to render, which I'm going to do as soon as I get the first pour done. I'll probably grab a second bucket like this, have it ready, do the first pour. Hopefully the first pour all fits in that one bucket, and then we'll just plan to do it again, a second pour to get rid of that wax as well. So here's the plan. I hope you can hear me over the lawnmower there. I got my primary bucket ready to go with the sieve. I should have bought more. That's a little dollar store, a $3 sieve or whatever it is, and I should have bought 3 or 4 for them, because I'm sure that thing's going to overflow with debris. So the plan is to start pouring off the deck here. When it fills up, stop, dump it out in the garbage bag that's standing by there, then keep going until that bucket fills up. I don't know if that bucket will fill up completely with what we've got, but we're going to see. Pretty sloppy. Yeah, that's the liquid is still pouring out of here, so I'm just going to let it settle down for a bit. So here's the aftermath of the first pour. I didn't like how I was going, because as I thought, that sieve was just overflowing massively. There was no way to do it basically without pouring stuff all over the place. So plan B is going to be to go get paint can strainers from the paint store, put them in the bucket first, pour the whole thing in, then just lift the strainer out and let it drip down into it. because that's feasible. This is ridiculous. Maybe this would work on a second pour where there's not that much debris, but definitely not on a first where there's that much debris. Alright, so the strainer method failed miserably. I went to the paint shop to get paint strainer, bucket strainer type of things, and they didn't have them. So I settled with this cheesecloth, and you know, as I look at it now, I think I'm going to double it up because it looks pretty flimsy. So I'm going to throw another cheesecloth on there just to double it up to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. We're going to pour it all into there, and then we're going to pull the cheesecloth up, kind of squish it down to strain it as much as possible. I know it's going to be pretty hot, so got to try and find the right temperature to do that. And then just kind of hang the cheesecloth somewhere above the bucket just to let it drip until it all dries. So that's plan B. Let's see how she goes. Okay, well, that worked a lot better, but still it's just overflowing with slop. I'm gonna wait a minute, see if I can let that come down a bit. As you can see, there's still a little more in the pot that would be nice if we can get out. I'm just gonna give it a couple minutes. Okay, so here I'm just going to try and stitch up this sack that I've made here in a way that it won't let go. And now just suspend it somehow, somewhere, over the bucket. Maybe just do it over this one here, because I'm going to re-render this one. Maybe this tripod will work. Let's see. So here's a look at how I'm suspending it, just letting it drip. Ideally, I would be letting it drip into the bucket, the white bucket, but I didn't plan ahead enough to have something that I could suspend it on. So I'm just doing it into that, which is just fine as well, because now I'm just going to find some gloves, squeeze that thing, to try to get as much liquid out of it as possible before it freezes up. And then I'm going to render another batch in that big pot anyway, so should work out fine. Yeah, it's definitely helping fluid come out. It's still a touch too hot to do with your hands, even with gloves on. At least for me, I'm kind of a wimp when it comes to this stuff. If it was my wife, she wouldn't even be wearing gloves. I kind of feel like I'm doing something rude to a buffalo. Okay, so here goes the last pour, I hope. I just let it cool down enough so that it won't melt the plastic bucket. Hopefully there's enough space for all the junk on top. Let's get a better grip here. It's good so far. Cheesecloth is holding up nicely. Trying to pour so that you can see it. Okay, I'm going to try and wipe this stuff down while it's fresh and clean up the pot a bit. Okay, so morning after. Let's go tower. Another windy one, and surprise, surprise, we got rain last night. Plenty of it. Let's see what we got here. one hand. Wow. Yeah. I was a little concerned that this would stick to the sides. A lot of wax there. Let's see about this one. Yeah, this one's a lot dirtier. Basically, I took a lot of the drippings off the side of the bag and dropped them into this one. Oh yeah. Okay. Thinner than I thought it would be. That's what she said. But still. Okay, let's see. Oh man, that's not going to work here. Okay, so I'm going to take this out to the front and dump it over because I don't want that sloppy water all over my lawn here. Okay, so here's what the second puck looks like. See, it's only about, maybe not even 2 inches thick. I thought it'd be more. I was thinking between 4 to 6 inches. But the color's a little better than I thought it would be, which tells me there's not too far to go. Maybe one more. I'll do one more melt and strain of it. Scrape all this stuff off first. Get down to the really fine particles. And then do one more strain today of this and that. And that's it. Stuff scrapes off really easily. Basically, I'm not going to get right down to the wax, but just getting down to that gray layer there is looking like just pollen and propolis. So that should be relatively easy to filter out. It's the big stuff that I want to make sure I don't run through the sieve again and clog everything up. So after scraping and a little bit of a rinse, here's what I ended up with here. And like I said, the color's pretty close to what I was hoping the final color would be like. I think it'll clean up a little bit on the next filtering. And if you really wanted to, you could filter it a couple of times with the finer and finer mesh filter. I'll just see how the next round comes up, end up with one puck, and probably call it a day for my first sort of largish scale, for me anyway, rendering. So now I'll fill up this pot, I'll bring this pot up to about here with water and just boil this down and go through another filtration nightmare. Here's what I've got to clean up before that happens. Ew. Okay, so I'm all set up for what I think will be the final pours, at least for today. I'm going to do a pour just straight into that sieve, and I hope that there's not enough debris in this pour here to block that sieve. I'm hoping to be able to pour it all through there. If it all does go through there, and I'm happy with it, I'll probably just pour it right back into here as a final pour. This might not be the best way to do it. I think it's a long shot that this will actually work, but I'm going to try it. Maybe it just saves me a day. I think it's going to work. Confidence is high. Got a couple chunks there, unmelted. Okay, now let's see how Plan B works. So far so good. And of course there's wastage. You can see stuff stuck to the side here, and you're never going to get all the wax that your bees make, but this will work for me. Okay, so here's the final product. It looks pretty. Oh yeah. Yeah, you see, didn't get any more wax than the first go around, but it is so much cleaner. And this is just kind of a little slimy bit that's going to come off really easily. So let's get this cleaned up and we're done. So it's nice to get to this when it's still warm, because it really comes off easily. Most of this to this point I've just removed with my hands, so I'm going to keep scraping it until I get right down to the wax, and then we are done. Okay, so here is the final product. Here's my puck, my wax puck. Ended up being about 1.5 inches. I don't mind the color, it could still get lighter. If you filtered this again with a much finer filter, probably in much more warmer weather, you'd have lighter colored wax for sure, but I can live with this. This is going to last me a long, long time. The last time I rendered wax was about 5 years ago, and I actually gave it to a friend to render because they were more interested in doing it than I was. And this is what I kept. I kept a little bar of soap. I asked them to make me a bar of soap, basically. And this is pretty much all I've used of that. But this year, and with this, we're looking at making some candles, and I'm even going to look at making some chapstick. I got to look into that and see if there's some good recipes out there, because that would work really well for us. And I'm also going to be waxing my foundation, which you know I've been having problems with. So hope this helped. It was fun. I would not want to do this every day. It's messy. Don't do it in your house. Cook it outside. This is one thing I'm going to change. I'm going to buy one of those outdoor propane burners to burn it outside. Bring nothing inside, and be aware that you're going to basically ruin everything that this wax touches. But it was worth it. This is probably about, I don't know, 5 pounds, and this will last me a long time. So hopefully this has helped you, and thanks for joining me. Have 40 Honeybee.